Hello guys, they say there are three eternal topics that people want to talk about. Number one, food. We've talked about that. Then sex. I'm not sure I'm ready. And money. So today we will talk about money because I receive a lot of questions whether you can only pay with cash in Ukraine. Can you use bank cards? Do we have Google Pay, Apple Pay? And how actually we pay during blackouts. So I've decided to answer all of these questions today, but also to introduce you to our Ukrainian currency, Hryvnia, which, by the way, is considered one of the most beautifully designed in the world. There are competitions for currencies. And I actually remember the time when Hryvnia was introduced in Ukraine in 1996. I was at school and my father gave me first 2 Hryvnia'S, which I considered a very serious capital. So let's first discuss how war influenced the money situation for an ordinary Ukrainian. And then I will introduce you to our beautiful Ukrainian money. By the way, the name comes from the times of Kiev Rus. And yes, Kiev Rus is Ukrainian history, no matter how hard Russia tries to steal it. So, at the beginning of the full-scale invasion, of course, these first weeks, they were marked by fear, they were marked by panic. And you all know, no matter what happens, war, epidemics, various natural disasters, people want to protect themselves for a certain period of time, because when electricity does not work, when internet does not work, you need cash. And that is why at the beginning of the full-scale war, there were queues to ATMs, to supermarkets, because in Ukraine you can also get cash at the supermarkets. And people were trying to get some because no one could predict what will happen tomorrow. Fortunately, we turned out to be way stronger than many expected, and I think pretty soon people stopped creating this panic, people stopped buying foreign money like dollars or euros to safeguard their savings, and it all returned back to normal, I think a couple of months after the start of this full-scale war. This of course, demonstrates the resilience of people, but also the fact that the majority of Ukrainians got used to rely on cards and systems like Google Pay, like Apple Pay. To tell you the truth, I almost don't have cash. And to film this video, because I want to show you Ukrainian Hryvnia'S, I had to try and collect different banknotes, and it took me some time. In 99% of cases, we pay with cards. I mean, of course, people of my generation, people like some generations younger and older, but in general, like, it dominates. I remember like 10 years ago, it was different, but when we say that Ukraine is a very digitized country, don't think that we exaggerate. I've heard a lot of complaints from Ukrainians who travel the world and are surprised to learn that there are a lot of situations when, for example, in some EU countries or in North America, you cannot pay or you cannot transfer the money that you want in that simple and very understandable way. For example, I am a sole proprietor in Ukraine and I pay my taxes easily with one of the banks that I'm using, and this procedure is very simple. So, in general, if you have a card, you will survive in Ukraine. And of course, if you have money on your card. Another very important thing is that you can exchange money, or you can also pay with your dollar or euro card, and it will convert into hryvnia. Of course, you will lose some money on this conversion, but I think that is a typical problem literally everywhere in the world. And another important fact that I want to stress, I wanted not to forget this. After these years of brutal Russian violence, their constant shelling of Ukraine, their open war against us, Ukrainian hryvnia is way stronger than the Russian ruble. And I think it says it all. It says it all, that despite all of their efforts, Russia will collapse and Ukraine will remain strong, resilient, beautiful European country that you will visit sometime soon. So what happened during blackouts? Of course, during blackouts, the electricity does not work. If the electricity does not work, the ATM machines do not work too. Of course, some of them can get supply from generators or some other systems, but typically even the internet is very slow, overloaded, so it's not very likely that during a blackout you will use ATMs. But many people can, like, I don't know, transfer money from account to account, or you simply wait. Honestly, we did not have blackouts for quite a long period of time. First of all, because we are way better with our air defense than it was before, and which is totally different to what happens with Russia. And second, because, well, people develop systems that back up their systems, like all these generators, alternative sources of power, and various businesses. They invest in that so that you can continue shopping even in this dark hours. And I think that's amazing. That is another proof of Ukrainian resilience. So typically, I can remember some moments of panic and problems, but in comparison to all the long period of war, I may say that was a tiny period of time, because Ukrainian businesses, Ukrainian banks adapt really quickly. What I also want to mention is that our banks really quickly introduce various services for donations and volunteering, and support tremendously various important war efforts. Literally every bank has developed their own program. They advertise it. They cooperate with small and big volunteering initiatives. They make it fun. Plus, I don't know if you have something like a cashback, so you can set up that all of your cashback money that return from your purchases are spent on a war effort that you like. That's what I did. So literally every time I buy something, a certain amount of money returned back to the Ukrainian armed forces. People can collect money individually if they are registered as volunteers. And I think it's another proof of our resilience and this quick adaptability, which is vital for the survival under constant Russian attacks. And now is the time to introduce you to Ukrainian hryvnia. Please subscribe to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine and to learn more about our beautiful culture, about life in these very challenging times. So hryvnia is a very old name, and currency like that circulated in times of Kiev Rus. The word itself comes from an old, beautiful jewelry piece, like a necklace that people wore, and it was made of precious metals, so it was quite popular, and later the money got the name. So hryvnia is for paper money, and for small, like less than 1 hryvnia, I mean like 50 coins or 50 cents in Ukrainian, that is kopyka. To tell you the truth, we do not have a lot of kopykas anymore because, of course, during these years, inflation happened. But we have 5 hryvnias, 1 hryvnia, 2 hryvnia, 10 hryvnias in coins, and I have always liked coins. I don't know why, and how can I explain that? Hryvnia was introduced in 1996, and I was in my 5th grade then. And I was super excited. I do remember the day when me and my dad went to the bank to change all transitional coupons that existed during this very short hyperinflation period after the collapse of the USSR and before hryvnia was introduced. And we were so excited, and we spent some time in a queue, and we got this first Ukrainian money. Just imagine what a beautiful period of time that was. And he shared with me, he gave me my first 2 hryvnias, and I was super, super happy to touch them, to possess them, and to know that these are new money of my old country that has just renewed its independence. And let me show you what money I'm talking about.
So here are Ukrainian hryvnias that I want to introduce you to. Traditionally, for many currencies, they have an important historical figure on one side and an important building on the other side. And I don't know what order to choose because like money gets older. Perhaps I will start with this one, 1 hryvnia, 2 hryvnias, 5 hryvnias, because somehow they just like go through history, and we begin with really ancient, important historical figures, and we will finish with more modern ones. These hryvnias look very tired because they are old, and now we mainly use them as coins. So for example, this is 1 hryvnia, but you can also see it in this format. And on one side here we see Prince Volodymyr, who is very important in Ukrainian history, in Kyiv Rus history. He was the one who baptized us. And on the backside, you may see this ancient Kyiv town. So Prince Volodymyr was the first one. Then on 2 hryvnias, we have another prince, Yaroslav the Wise, who was known as the father-in-law of Europe, and actually many royal families have connection with Yaroslav the Wise. And he was really wise. He built one of perhaps the most important churches in Ukraine. It's very beautiful. It has more than 1,000 years, and you can still visit it in Kyiv because we care and we protect, and it's worth visiting because it actually is very beautiful, but it also tells the story, and it has a lot of graffitis, ancient graffitis on the walls. But like most commonly, you will see this money in coins, which we name kopyka in Ukrainian. 50 kopykas, for example, they are still functioning, and trident on the back side. By the way, Volodymyr was the one to introduce trident into his coins back in times of Kyiv Rus. It was 10th century. Just think about that. So the next historical figure is Bogdan Khmelnytsky, who was a famous Ukrainian hetman, and on the back side we can see church in Subotiv, which is church in Subotiv, which is closely connected with his heritage. Then 20 hryvnias, a Ukrainian poet Ivan Franko, and on the back side, Opera House, Lviv Opera House, one of the main tourist attractions in Ukraine, and it also houses beautiful opera, ballet, theater performances. Let me know, have you ever visited it, or would you like to see it in the comments below. The next one is Mikhailo Hrushevsky, who was the first president of Ukraine during a short period of the renowned Ukrainian independence in the 20th century before the Soviets occupied Ukraine. And he's not my favorite historical figure because I think he could have done better. protecting this independence. And on the back side, we have the house of the Central Council, which was the government back in that time. 100 hryvnias is for Taras Shevchenko. Taras Shevchenko is a famous Ukrainian poet. You often see him on older portraits. Here he is young, and you can also see things he used for painting because he's a great artist. And apart from his poems, he created a lot of beautiful paintings. And on the back side, Taras Shevchenko University main building. It is in Kyiv. You can come and visit it one day after we defeat Russia. It is always painted in dark red color, and many people name it the Red Building. And it's beautiful, and perhaps Taras Shevchenko University is one of the best in the country. 200 hryvnias. And the only woman, Lesia Ukrainka, a famous Ukrainian poetess. And on the backside, those of you who follow me know this is Lutz Castle, the main tourist attraction of my native city. And people love visiting Lutsk and making photos with 200 hryvnias and, a castle at the background. Now we have 500 hryvnias with famous Ukrainian philosopher Skovoroda, Grigory Skovoroda. Russians destroyed his museum. That was at the very beginning of the invasion. No military objects were near. They simply wanted to destroy Ukrainian cultural heritage. And on the backside, we may see Kyivo-Mogilyanska Academy, one of the oldest academies that still works in Ukraine since, I may say, late Middle Ages. And the biggest banknote in Ukrainian hryvnias, 1,000, with Vernadsky, who is a famous scientist. And on the backside, we see the Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. By the way, I've never thought about that, but you have like Academy of Sciences, then Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, then Taras Shevchenko University. So perhaps we consider our universities very important and we describe them on the backside of our money. So these are also coins. For example, here we have 10 hryvnias, and in 10 hryvnias, I did not find a paper variant, but here we have Ivan Mazepa, and Ivan Mazepa is my favorite ever Ukrainian hetman, the one that wanted to run away from Peter I, the one that built a very good project of European Ukraine, a lot of beautiful cathedrals, was very educated, and Russians still hate him, and he's actually condemned by the Moscow Church, despite the fact that he himself built dozens of churches. What are the other, just like this coin shape? 1 hryvnia, 2 hryvnias, and I guess 5 with Bogdan Khmelnytsky. And I like it that it has this like shape. So remember to tell me what's your favorite Ukrainian hryvnia. Different colors, different historical figures, and just one more proof that we have a beautiful history, we have a beautiful culture, and we have beautiful money that are stronger than the Russian ruble.
By the way, let me know in the comments below what was your favorite banknote, which design you liked best. It's very interesting for me, and when I travel to your countries, I often leave a banknote that I like, I don't change it, and I return back home with it, especially if it's something unusual, not just dollar or euro, but some national currencies. I'm a great supporter of euro, I'm a great supporter of US dollar, but still it's interesting when you can look at this important historical figures, locations, birds or flowers that so many nations depict on their money. I think it's also a part of this cultural heritage that can be very interesting for a tourist. Once again, let me know what was your favorite hryvnia. To tell you the truth, Of course, from time to time, people feel worried about money, and I think it's quite logical. I think people in the US feel the same today, and people in the European Union. There are some transactions that partially restricted during this martial law. For example, you cannot pay in euros or dollars. So, for example, if I receive money in euros for my NGO project, I have to sell them into hryvnias, and only then I can pay people salary. I cannot pay it directly in euros. This is a restriction that came together with a martial law, and I'm sure it will change in future. The reason is to control this money transfer more attentively. And actually, that is another proof that Ukraine is very careful about using the money, especially the ones provided by our allies. And trust me, the majority of things that Russian propaganda tries to bring as Ukraine as the most corrupt country and so on is very well designed BS, when in reality, people who come to Ukraine, they see how active our civil society is, how many cases were open, even for minor corruption cases. And this is a demonstration of growth, the demonstration of changed attitudes. Can you imagine reading articles about, I don't know, some deputy ministers arrested for corruption in Russia? But in Ukraine, people are super attentive. And to tell you the truth, war makes people more alert, more attentive. Because when so many beautiful people pay with their health, pay with their lives for the survival of this country, trust me, their families, their relatives do control local authorities, military people responsible for the spending of money that can save or support the soldiers, the army, the children. So don't let Russia trick you in that like Ukraine is the most corrupt country in the world. Of course, we have problems with corruption. Who doesn't? We fight against that. And you can see that openly, transparently. Ukraine is an open country. You can read about that in newspapers. You can ask questions. You can interview a president. Can you do something similar in Russia? Of course not. I do hope the day when you come to travel to Ukraine is soon, and you will be able to check how digitized, how advanced Ukraine is. Maybe you will like it here and you will decide to stay and build your business. And once again, trust me, a lot of tax procedures, a lot of business opening procedures are way easier here than in many countries that are considered comfortable for middle and small businesses. By the way, let me know in the comments below, would you like some separate videos about, I don't know, Ukrainian businesses or something that can help you see my country more? That's very important for me. And give me all the ideas of the things that you want to see on the channel. Remember to subscribe. Remember to subscribe to my social media platforms, and all the links that you need are in the description of this video. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel. But most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!